It's a good question. I don't really know. I think there's something just about getting behind the kit and thrashing about is something really therapeutic. I've read some stuff and watched some stuff about people getting, why people is the way people have evolved over time or whatever, musically and personally, like music and rhythm has always been there, like with drums and stuff like that. So maybe that, if you want to actually explore that avenue, that's something I haven't really explored, but.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters Net podcast. I'm your host Brian. Joining me today is a special guest hailing from Ireland, James Kelly. How you doing, brother?
I'm very good, man. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And just to list everything off right here, James here is a professional session musician, going 15 years and beyond right here. Having a lot of years live and studio experience, because I'm reading your About page right here. And it says here you have your own drum studio. Is that...
Yeah, actually that came about. I'll try and not waffle too much, but I was living in the UK for a long time, and I ended up playing less and less music, and working in bars, and I was just kind of thinking. One day I was like, I've got to make a change. So I went home and just I moved back in with my parents. I must have been, I don't know, I was about 23, 24 maybe. My dad is a musician as well, so he has his own little studio. So I kind of was working in it, and I was like, this could be better. So I kind of gutted the place, started it from scratch, took out all the shelves, painted it, kind of done it like your own DIY type of thing, trying to keep the cost down, and ended up making it into like a remote little studio. I wouldn't say it's what's the big studios in LA, Capitol Records type stuff, but it's nice for an old bedroom. Kind of got work through that. It got me the job I have now. Funnily enough, I was putting out like some drum videos for YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff. Got picked up by a band that have been going since the 1990s, 1992. And funnily enough, I used to go see them as a kid live in Ireland. And their guitarist seen one of my videos, and he says, okay, we're changing up musicians soon. Would you like to come and audition? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So met them, and that kind of got me the job. So I was 8 months into this job, and then the pandemic closed everything down. So then I started taking the studio more serious, working with clients everywhere from America to the UK to, I think it was an Australian guy. But anyway, yes. To answer your question, yes.
Okay. Did you also have to really tear down the walls and kind of make them more like soundproof sort of thing, or was it?
Yeah, it's I remember actually sitting out in the rain in February making them, and I got my mom to help. She done all like the making it nice and neat, around the sides, that kind of stuff. But yeah,
I see.
It was fun.
It does mention here about some of the other studios you played in. Real World Studios, Church Road Studios with producers Marco
Migliari,
and then Stu Jackson. And
yeah.
And are you playing with the band right now, Big Generator? Is that your current band you're in?
That's the band I mentioned that've been going since 1992. Yeah, okay. They're great lads, great dudes.
That's pretty sweet. You guys on the road right now?
Yeah. So what day is today? Today is Saturday. Last night we were. Do you know any geography of Ireland? Do you know any cities apart from Dublin?
I know Belfast and
okay.
Pretty much. The funny thing is, I've always been meaning to actually go out to Ireland, but
it's great, man. It's great.
Is it? The funny thing is, you always get attracted to like the bigger cities and the more well-known names. But like I've seen family members, they've all gone out there, and there was even one from my church. Yeah, taking a trip out to Ireland, visiting all these different. I think it was small churches, but they might have went to a couple of big ones here and there. But I've always heard good things about Ireland, and I would like to get there. So
it's very friendly. It's very like everyone's approachable. The thing is like. I always said to people that the one difference, if I had to differentiate between living in England and living in Ireland, if you go into a pub as just you on your own in England, people will kind of look around at you and go, like a local pub, people will kind of look at you and go, who's this guy, kind of, and on his own, whatever. If you do that in Ireland, within 10 seconds, you'd have someone chatting to you, buying you a pint, or, oh, where are you from? You're not from around here. It's really accepting. It's just really friendly. And that's kind of probably why everyone drinks too much, because it's so fun.
Yes.
You end up in pubs all the time having a good time.
Well,
I don't know if you're a drinker or not, but like even going in for like just a chat, you'll find a story or two.
Well, the funny thing is, I am mostly Irish, so I will say I at least got a lot of Irish blood in me,
Right?
to say the least. But I'm not much of a drinker, but I'll have a nice drink every now and again. But I need an occasion. That's the thing. I can't do it just on my own. I need somebody to share the drink with. So
I get that. It's well, like I said, if you go into an Irish pub, you'll find someone to drink with. It's leaving is the tricky part. Yeah.
All right. So let's get into a little bit more about your story and get to know James both as the drummer and as the individual. So you ready?
Cool. Yeah, let's go.
All right. So I'll start with the first question here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you become the man you are today?
Musically.
Yeah, musically, yeah.
Musically, come from a musical family. My dad has been playing music all his life professionally. He is the reason I got into music. He's a keys player, piano player. He kind of tried to get me into keyboard and piano. I was like 8 or 9. I wasn't taken to it, and I think I was around 9. I remember mentioning to my mum, I really want to play some drums. And then magically, one Christmas, there was a drum kit appeared. How strange. And been playing since. I remember, I think one of the moments I remember specifically that I kind of thought, I want to do that, is when I remember the date actually, it was the 8th of August 2008. No, 13th of August 2008, in a venue in Marley Park in Dublin. I seen a band called Muse, and as soon as they wheeled out the drum kit, the lights were on it, the drum technician got up, sound checked the kit, I was like, that's it. That is exactly what I want to do. I've been chasing it since, so I would say that's where I am today, apart from the studio and gigging on the road and whatever, but that was the moment for me.
I see, yeah. Yeah, I think when I was checking out your channel, you did have a lot of like the Muse covers too, like Testimonia, that sort of one.
Yeah. That sounds like me.
Is that your favorite band? Is that band
that would be? Yeah, that's probably one of my biggest influences. If I had to pick 3, it's either Chad Smith, Dave Grohl, and Taylor Hawkins with Dominic Howard, because you can't really split up Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins because they're so similar. As a drummer, they're just like, so as soon as Taylor passed away, I got his eagle tattooed on straight away. So,
oh, that's so sick.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's a nice little homage to him. Homage. I'm not sure, whatever you want to call it.
Homage.
But I think, are you a Foo Fighters fan or anything like that?
I listen to them every now and again, but it's mostly more the well-known songs like the Learn to Fly, Monkey Wrench, and those kind of ones. Everlong.
It's funny. It's funny. Like, out of all the musicians that have passed away over the last 10 or so years, Taylor Hawkins was the only one who really hit me, and I was like, that sucks. That really sucks. I remember sitting in my room going, that's crazy. It really just hit me. So
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Funny how it works.
I know the other ones that hit me too, even though they're not necessarily drummers, was Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington.
Yeah.
So those ones, yeah, those.
And they were good buddies. They were really good friends, and they both died the same way, which really sucked.
I know, yeah. I guess, did you ever deal with anything like that from like?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that's why it's really important for people to be aware of it now, especially in the music industry, because it's very strenuous. Like, you see it all the time. I don't know if you know, there's a UK artist called Sam Fender. He's up and coming, and he's, especially when you're up and coming, and like, he's just played Glastonbury to a huge crowd, and when you're at that point, your label and your management are pushing you so much to get out there and out there and out there. Like, and he just got so burnt out. Just, I have to cancel my shows for the next 6 months. And you see it with so many like different artists, and they goes, I'm burnt out. I need to look after my mental health. And I think that's absolutely fine. Like, people get annoyed about it, being like, oh, well, I booked my ticket. It's like, okay, well, how do you feel trying to get up and play to X amount of people when you're struggling to get out of bed or whatever? Like, I used to be way worse with my mental health, and I kind of done some stuff in therapy. I thought it was great to get in and really try and understand why your brain works in a certain way, and be really honest with yourself. Be honest with your thought process and be like, am I kind of kidding myself? Be like, am I being really like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely, too.
I think it's important to not bullshit yourself, because you're only creating more problems for yourself. So over the last couple of years, my mental health just went from like okay to I'm pretty good, mainly because I'm, my job satisfaction is where I want it to be. Personal satisfaction is getting there. So, I mean, you have a load of different boxes to tick off every day in your life to make you kind of feel where you want to be or where you feel happy, so to speak. I think that's important. And there's too many people that I know just toeing the line, being like, and they just don't seem happy. And I get that I'm super like lucky to be playing music for a living, and I know it's not easy to do, but it's no 9 to 5. I will never go back to like a job like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important for everyone to look after their mental health. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can understand too. That's a big thing here in the States. It's a lot more serious because
yeah,
I don't know if it's necessarily any sort of like mental condition, anything like that, like sort of autism or paranoia or whatever. I know it's just really hard to like try to say like what sort of therapy you really need, but it seems like even going to that seems to help. So it's good to see you.
Yeah, like it's like especially in today's generation or today's society, whichever you want to call it, it's more prevalent. And I know there's there's a lot of things, especially on social media, which exacerbates all the kind of mental health problems, because people are the comparison and all this stuff. But it's also, I find, in the younger people, some people are trying to identify as mentally unwell as it's trendy. That's really bad. But like also it's a lot more prevalent now with people talking about their mental health, because it's a lot more people are able to communicate more, obviously. But back in, let's say, the 1950s, the 1940s, whatever, back in when men were men, so to speak, the strong and silent type was admirable for a lot of people, but were they actually happy? Probably not. Most likely drinking too much to deal with stuff, and it's not really like that anymore. People kind of try and go, well, why am I not happy? At least it's getting that way a bit more, which is nice to see.
Yeah, that's why they make the stereotypes for Irish being big drinkers and everything too.
Yeah, well, let's just brush over that.
Yeah. We're good people. We're good people, and it's good to see you're doing well, buddy.
Absolutely, it's good, man. It's good to be alive.
All right,
it's good to be alive, man.
I'm assuming you're in your bus, so I guess your kid's probably stashed away right now. What kind of kid are you playing right now?
I'm my own boss. It varies from day to day depending on luckily I'm self-employed, but the kit I'm playing at the minute is a Tama Star Classic. It is actually a Tama Star Classic, Birch and Bubinga, and I believe I got one of the last kits that were made, because now Bubinga is supposed to be somewhat of an endangered wood. Sounds phenomenal. It's a great kit. I remember taking it straight out of the box, playing it, and we're like, Jesus, I don't have to touch that too much. Great kit. One rack, one floor, 22-inch kick. I think 22 by 16-inch kick. And then 12 by 10, 16 by 16. Just great. Just a great kit.
I know.
What'd you play yourself?
Excuse me. I kind of roll with the electric kit. I roll with a Roland TD-25. It's
very fancy.
It's something at least, but I've seen like some of those like enhanced ones, if we want to just say that. It's more like a regular drum kit, because some friends of mine in the drum community, they play electric kits, but it looks like real, to be honest, because they make the cymbals the golden color and everything.
Yeah,
and then,
of course.
Then the toms and everything, they kind of look like what you expect, the long cylinder kind of shaped and everything. So
they're great for those church gigs.
Yeah, that's
they are. They don't get in the way.
They're not too loud either. They're at least.
Do you play at church?
I do not, but I do usher work and stuff like that. I'm also a member of the Knights of Columbus, so that's another thing. It's an honest thing to do, even though I haven't been a whole lot into the Knights recently, because one, they don't text me a whole lot, so I'm kind of left in the wind there. So Do you do anything outside of like this as well? Do you do stuff in church too, or are you just
No, no. I used to like Ireland's quite a Catholic country, predominantly, and there's been a lot of different problems over the years between Catholics and Protestants. That is a whole other ball game between 800 years worth of stuff between Ireland and England. But personally, no, I wouldn't be a religious person. Growing up, it was taught. I have nothing against it. I have nothing for it. It's just not for me. My granddad, who was from the west of Ireland, he was very religious. He'd get up every morning, say his prayers in the evening, go to church every Sunday. Same as my nan. She was another Irish woman, and they both lived in England. Very religious, as most of the older generations were. Mom and dad were kind of so-so growing up, but the more people kind of in Ireland anyway, it's coming away from that because it was heavily what's the word?
I guess the whole thing because in Northern Ireland it got violent and that's the sort of thing. So.
Well, not necessarily that, but there was a lot of scandals and a lot of really distasteful stuff that went on that you can look at if you need, and it just went down. The respect for it went all down. But for me, it doesn't do anything for me. I know it's a big thing in the States with Sunday church and service, and it's a whole celebration of different things with music and everything. Over here, it's not so much like that. But one thing I would love to see though is the black church. That whole thing is phenomenal. Everything from the music, the gospel singing, and it seems like a party. Like it seems really cool. I'd love to experience it once at least.
I've always seen one just mainly in the shows, to be honest. I never really see one live too, but I think it's more prevalent in the southern part of the States. I think there are some close to where I live too, but I've never been part of one either. But
where are you based?
I'm in the state of Pennsylvania, close to the city of Pittsburgh, PA. So
okay, cool.
Have you ever toured in the States?
I've never toured in the States. No, I'd love to, but I've been to the States a couple of times. I've been to Florida, I've been to Vegas, and I've been to... Does it count if I was in JFK for 6 hours in a layover? Probably not.
Maybe a little bit. We'll give it
I seen the Brooklyn Bridge from a window, so
really,
I was happy enough.
I was going to say LA too, but I guess where were some of the studios that you played in at?
Mainly in Ireland and the UK. So, do you ever hear of a band called Genesis?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins. So it was Peter Gabriel's studio I was in for 6 months with a band I played with in England. It's an old wooden mill. You know, they have a stream under it and like a wheel and stuff like that. Phenomenal, beautiful studio. That's where I work with Marco Miliari. He actually produced the theme tune from Halo 3. Or was it Halo 4? Halo 3 or 4? One of them. The studio, gorgeous. Really, really phenomenal place. And in there, do you know that song Blue Monday by New Order?
It sounds familiar, yeah.
It was a breakthrough song back in the 80s. It was an electronic song with a drum machine. The guy that produced that was working across the courtyard. His name was Steve Osborne. And Vanessa Carlton was there when we were recording. I remember, and I don't know if you're into 70s bands, but you've heard of... I presume you've heard of Led Zeppelin. I would say. I'd say who hasn't. So we were like, you know, it's just kind of like, it's a huge residential place. You know, they've got fields and gardens, and they've got a huge live control room. You should give it a Google at some point. You'd be like, it's really interesting. They've got a writer's room, cottages. The wooden room is really cool, and the live room is kind of like where you can master in like Dolby surround sound. Ridiculous place with fucking huge wraparound desk. And about every day at about 12:30, 1 o'clock, they have an on-site chef called Jerome. You could give him a leather boot and a pillow and a bit of cardboard, and he would manage to make a phenomenal soup out of that. He's a real talented dude. You pay €5 or £5 whatever, and you get the text that lunch is ready. You walk into this like communal room or whatever, and everyone's got their tables if they're working there. We got the text anyway. We walked in, and I kind of looked around, didn't really recognize anyone. I didn't catch behind the door, so And I sat down, was eating this soup, and my bass player at the time walked in, pale, and I was like, "What's wrong with you?" And he kind of goes, "Do you know who that is?" And I kind of looked up, and I was like, "Oh, oh wow!" And it was Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin with his band rehearsing, and I kind of just went, like, I grew up with John Bonham as a drummer, and I was sitting there going, I have to at least get a picture with him. And anyway, we kind of didn't say anything at the lunch, whatever. So we went out to the courtyard, and everyone going back to work or recording or whatever. And the two of us really, really nervous to like meet this guy. And his band comes out, and his drummer starts laughing. He goes, "You waiting on Rob?" And we were just like, "Yeah." And he goes, "All right, whatever." So just as he comes out, he says hello, and my bass player at the time, he's hilarious. He panics and goes, "All right, Rob, how's it going?" And he catches him, it's like Robert Plant, And he was kind of taken a little bit back, and I was like, "Hey man, sorry, we're working next door to you in the studio. Would it be all right if we have a quick photo? We don't want to keep you." And he was like, "Yeah, no problem. No, wait there." And he walked off, never came back.
Yep, the bass player scared him away.
And I was like, "Oh, what the fuck? Like, what can you do with that?" Like,
oh man, I was gonna ask you, do you have that picture?
I would love to say that, but I did get a picture of him from across the room eating soup.
Oh
so, man. I'll keep that one in my archive.
I see. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Was he always kind of a nervous wreck with real famous people, or was it just that one time it was like, "Oh my god"?
I think because it was Robert Plant. There was a couple of other people we bumped into, but if you don't spend a lot of time growing up with someone's music, it doesn't really phase you as much. And I presume because we were quite young at the time, we were quite green. You could have put, I don't know, anyone who was on TV once in front of us, and we would have been like, "Oh!" Like, we ended up having a cup of tea with a singer from a band called Elbow, who we actually studied one of their songs in music college, and I landed myself in it by going, "We actually studied one of your songs," and he went, "Oh really? Which one?" I went, I completely forgot the name, and he was it The Hit? And I went, it was The Hit. He was from the north of England, and they're really they're like super down to earth. And he actually said, "Are you the guys from such and such a band?" And we went, "Yeah." So he knew who we were because we were next door. And he was super, super sound. He told us some funny stories about when they were playing Glastonbury and a couple of venues in the UK. So he's a really nice guy. So it just shows you can meet one ends of it, two of the same,
Yeah, both sides of the spectrum or something like that.
Something like that.
All right. Before we jump into your current band right now, Big Generator, what sort of sticks do you play with?
Jesus, yeah, I completely went off there. Sorry.
That's a good story. I'll tell you what, that's a hell of a nice story to tell. Like, I wish you had on that picture too. We could have probably showed it on here.
Oh man, I would have loved to get a picture.
But
I'd have to dig that other one out. He looked super old in it, so I wouldn't do that to him in case he ever ended up watching this specific interview.
Just hear him raging on the comments, I guess, or something like that.
I should have took a picture with them. Sticks wise, it depends on the gig. If it's quite a more demanding gig, I can hit quite hard, and for longevity, I'm using Vater 5Bs. If it's kind of like more, I can sit back a bit, I'll bring it back down to the 5As. I won't go near 7As because I'm just too heavy-handed. I'm one of these players who, if I don't give it my all physically, feel like I'm like a bit of a caged animal. And I know there's certain, like, with funk or some really like chill stuff, that's different. But if you're playing a rock gig and you need to hold back, you just feel like you're on a bit of a leash. You just want to be let go. And that's why when you play bigger stages with amplified gear, you can kind of do that. But if you're playing like an indoor gig, 5As or, they can be a little overbearing. But the sweet spot between a 5A and a 5A and a 7A will kind of get you where you need to be. I actually ran out of sticks there last week, and I had to use the emergency pair of Chad Smith's Funk Blasters. I think they're just under 2B. So it's like lifting a small tree every time you want to hit the drums, which is kind of funny.
I see.
You get very, very tired if you're playing a 2-hour show.
Yeah, I see. Do do a lot of like rim shots, that sort of thing? Because normally that's like for the quiet parts and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, rim shots is in cross stick.
Well, yeah, like hitting the metal part of the snare, for instance. It's like,
Yeah. So if it's quiet, so it doesn't really matter what stick you use for that one. Well, I suppose it kind of does. 7A, you don't get the same projection. But a 5A or a 5B is a really nice. If you hit the sweet spot, that's a perfect click. But yeah.
I was just wondering because you say you hit real hard, so I was wondering, does he struggle just doing those rim shots? And it's like, man, I just hit the snare and everything.
The older and more experienced that you get more control, and you know when to go for it, when to lay back, and when to sit back in the groove or lay on the click or whatever. So
I see. Yeah, that's pretty sick to hear. All right, so let's jump into the band a little bit, then we'll get into what's like being a session musician. But
cool.
Let's talk about Big Generator. You say you started back in the '90s and then still rolling today and everything. Tell us something we don't know.
They started in the 90s. I'm only 29, so you could see the difference between the age now. They're 50 to mid 50s, I think. Let's call them all 40, in case they see this.
Okay.
All 40, and they're all great dudes.
We're gonna kick James out now.
That's it. James is now unemployed.
Blade, yeah. Okay.
Now, so they've been going since the 90s, 92 specifically. They've had a couple of lineup changes over the years. There was one tragedy in the band where their old drummer, I never got to meet him. He passed away in a car accident. His name was Tony Rice. He was a great drummer. He was with them for, I think, 3 years. That hit them hard. After that, they kind of went from drummer to drummer. And then I got the call in 2019. Been with them since then. So we usually play, depending on seasonal, it can get really busy around, summer, dies off January, February, can be a bit quiet because that's when everyone kind of has no money after Christmas and all that stuff. But usually we can be out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, anywhere up between the top of Ireland down. It really can vary. Last night we were in Cork, which is about 40 minutes away, which is an early gig for us. So I actually was in bed last night at 2:30, which is unheard of. And the night before, we were in a place in Kerry called Killarney, which is a huge, popular spot for American tourists. Very, 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 and we actually had one of the best crowds in there. They had a party of like 20 or 30 Americans in, and they just lifted the roof off the place. You guys are so enthusiastic when you come to see live music. It's really nice to see. And then tonight we are in a place 2.5 hours away called Ballina, which is where my granddad is from. So that's always a nice gig to play. It's far away, so we won't get home till about 6 a.m.
Nice.
So it's not the gigs that take it out of you. It's the mileage. It's the mileage that's tough.
Sitting down a lot, yeah, that sort of thing. Traveling from place to place, that sort of thing.
But it's okay if you stay over, if it makes sense. But sometimes it's kind of like throwing a dartboard at a map and kind of going, oh God, right, we're going here, 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 here. So, but I'm not complaining. It's been a quiet couple of years, so it's good to be out doing a bit again.
That's good to hear. And jump into being a session musician, I guess. First off, what made you want to be one? To be honest.
I don't know if I ever wanted to specifically be one, but necessity kind of brings you that way when you don't technically have a band, but you don't want to succumb to being a normal person, if you will. So you end up kind of like, you're like a rent a friend for, like a couple of hours. So it's fine. You meet a lot of different people. You really have to work on your people skills when you're first starting out, because if you don't have good control of your, if you're not very tactful in your replies, you can get into some touchy, like, okay, well, why isn't this or this, or give me this. So you work with a lot of different people. Some people know exactly what they want, like talking strictly from a remote kind of view. It's different when you're in a studio working with a producer. That's fine. You can explore different avenues there and then in real time. But say if you were sending me a song, I don't know if you know much about remote stuff. It's relatively straightforward. You send me a song. You might have a brief to give me. You might say, I really like this part of the song. This is influenced by this. Could you put your own spin on it? Here's the sounds I want. Do your thing. And I'll kind of try and interpret it. 9 times out of 10, what I'll send back to people is kind of what they're after with a couple of changes. And there's a 10% where you just kind of go, what do you think of this? And they're like, that's not what I want at all. Try it again. But they don't give you any direction. So you're kind of just like, okay, anything to add? And they're like, I trust you. You're just like, okay, right.
Not helping. Come on.
Yeah.
Give me something here, people.
Yeah.
Give me something.
Yeah. So, and luckily, the majority of people I've worked with have all been super sound, great direction, great briefs, great references. So it makes my life easier when they give me more, So I said, you help me help you.
I see. Yeah.
So,
I guess,
but,
I was gonna say, what sort of advice could you give to any novice session musicians who want to try maybe walk something similar in your shoes?
Network and promote yourself.
Marketing, that sort of thing.
Because if you don't network, no one really knows what you're about. Practice network. Practice to a click. That's one of the things that the guitarist I play with, he is mental. He's crazy in all the best ways. His timing is phenomenal. I thought my timing was good, but it's not his type of timing. He's got a really good ear. He goes, and I'll be sitting away, grooving away, and he'll just look at me sometimes and say, not so much anymore. We've kind of worked on it a lot, in a great way. We'll be grooving away, and he's got a really good internal clock for groove because he was disassembled by a producer that was working with him. He was like, your timing is shit. And he was like, oh God. So all your ego just deflates. And he built him back up like this machine, of just like, you can see where every note is sitting in a song. He can now do that in a great way, which is great. But that's why he doesn't get on with a lot of musicians, because some musicians can't take that. And it was kind of difficult to start. But what was I saying about timing? If you practice to a click, sometimes he'll sit to me, he'll sit back, he'll be playing away, and he'll just give me just that, and I'll just kind of just sit back, just a touch. But it makes all the difference. If you listen to Back in Black, the song Back in Black by AC/DC,
Oh, yeah.
You listen to how late that backbeat is. There you go to ba, da, 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 instead of going ba, da, 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 da. See the difference? You're right on the beat, or you're way back. That's why Phil Rudd, is such a lazy drummer. That's why AC/DC's got these sleazy riffs, and it's just so good, man. So if you listen to it, you'll be like, wow, I can really hear the difference with how fucking laid back that snare is. It's almost in the next bar. That's how late it is. It's great. It sits super well.
But still in 4/4.
Still in 4/4. 4/4 pays the bills, man.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the most easiest one to actually count to.
Yeah.
And everything.
As drummers, we only need to count to 4.
That's all we need.
Everything else is subdivisions.
Yeah, or when you start getting a lot more complicated, because I kind of go through the phase of going through metal and stuff like that. Have you ever played in metal first off?
I have. I actually went through, arguably a lot of people would not call them metal, they'd call them terrible, but I got really into Dragon Force when I was 12 and 13. I just bought a DW 7000 pedal. I just sat there, thrashing away and sweating. I'd love to hear it now, what I was playing. It's probably horrendous. But I quickly found out that I was not a good metal drummer unless I sat practicing double kick for a long, long time. I have the utmost respect for guys like Matt Gardska, and then the older guys like Dave Lombardo back in Slayer and from the 80s and 70s. Phenomenal player. Phenomenal player. It's a shame to see Dave Lombardo kicked out of Slayer.
I forget what the story was about it, but yeah, he stuck around, and then I think it was more Kerry King, to be honest, or Jeff Hanneman at the time, who probably kicked him out. But yeah, they brought in Paul Bostaph, who seemed to do a good job and helped close them out to retirement, to be honest. So,
have they finished now, have they?
They are done. Yep, they did the... Oh, fuck, I know it's Killatry, or whatever it's called. I'm going to take heat for that, sorry. But,
fair enough.
But it was their last live album, to say the least.
Right.
And that was pretty much it there. But they had Gary Holt come in for Jeff Hanneman after he had passed. Then Paul Bostaph on drums, and that was the lineup that kind of rolled all the way to the end until they retired.
Didn't Lamb of God get rid of Chris Adler as well?
Yeah, I think he's with Megadeth now. I think he's rolling in there. And Dave actually, he jumped around a lot, but I think he's in Testament now.
Those metal guys, man. And same with Joey Jordison before he left Slipknot. Like, I know Jay Weinberg's a phenomenal player, but it was weird seeing. I mean, I know it's a mask, but you know, you can tell it's not Joey Jordison playing.
They also lost like the bass player had passed away, and then
Paul Gray, wasn't it?
Yeah, Paul Gray.
Paul Gray.
And then Chris, I think it's pronounced Fang, was their one percussionist. He got up and left because there was some sort of dispute there. It gets weird because there's, I don't know, it's like creative differences, or it literally comes down to money at times, I guess.
Yeah, and it can be tough. Like, those guys doing hectic schedules, like 15 dates in a month is tough. It's like a day on, day off, day on, day off. You know, that can really take it out of you, especially with all the traveling.
Yeah.
So I'd say some people just get you get really sick of people, especially when you're on a bus. You're sitting with people, you're just like, God, when you stop breathing like that, you know, it just makes it just doesn't matter. They could be the best in the world, but you spend too long, even with yourself, you just go, stop.
I was gonna say, do you travel mostly by yourself, or do you sometimes travel with the group?
No, we all usually travel together. But if it's very far away, our guitarist Dave, he will opt to drive by himself, get you home a little bit earlier, so you'll see more and more people jumping in the car instead of the truck. It's nice traveling in the truck because there's a bit of camaraderie and you can talk a bit of rubbish and have a bit of fun. But yeah, if it's a long day or at the end of a long week, you just want to get home.
Yeah.
So.
Are you currently married right now, or are you just kind of rolling single?
Married, no. Single for the last while. Kind of. I'm enjoying the single life. It's nice. It's less stressful. It gives me a chance to focus on progressing career, professionally and personally, I suppose, if you will.
I see. Yeah.
Without having to worry about another human being's feelings and whatever they want to do with their life and stuff like that. So.
Also, keeps the taxes away. That's what we probably should say.
Very true.
Yeah.
All types of taxes.
All types of taxes. I don't know if you guys had childcare or anything like that in Ireland, so maybe not.
Ireland's not in a great state of affairs right now when it comes to everything's getting more expensive and the wages are staying the same.
I see, yeah. Got the same here, but we figure out some sort of programs to try to bring the price down in the States. Not very good politically, as you can probably guess, but oh well.
I don't remember the last time it was.
Was it?
I don't remember the last time it was good over there politically. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah, I guess. But this is a political kind of talk here or anything like that. We're not politics.
Nah, that's not my forte.
Nope. Not mine either, but I tend to watch it every now and again to at least see what the chit chat is going along. But it's too divisive at the point. But
yeah.
Get back into drumming. What is it that you love most about drumming?
Which what? Sorry.
What do you love most about drumming?
It's a good question. I don't really know. I think there's something just about getting behind the kit and thrashing about is something really therapeutic. I've read some stuff and watched some stuff about people getting, why people is the way people have evolved over time or whatever, musically and personally, music and rhythm has always been there, like with drums and stuff like that. So maybe that, if you want to actually explore that avenue, that's something I haven't really explored, but I haven't really thought much about it, but I like that concept. But I think there's something cool just about sitting behind a kit, putting on your favorite songs, and thrashing away with it. Guitar, you can sit there, you can noodle at it. Bass, you can mess around. Keys are great. I love keys. But with drums, you really got to get into it. You got to feel it. Really, really, you can't just sit there and tip away. It's like, okay, but if you're like, going for it, it just releases something and you just feel really connected to it. So I guess it's hard to answer for me, but I think that's the best explanation I could probably give you.
It really is the inner spirit. You get proud of something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It's like your own kind of therapy.
Yeah, that's what we always say in the drum community I'm a part of. It's real small, like a bunch of good guys, middle class sort of guys who have like their own families and stuff like that. Some of them actually do play in cover bands and stuff like that. But we always say it's therapeutic because
it is
after a long, stressful day and stuff like that, you just get on your drum set and it allows you to hit something without getting in trouble for it too. So that's the other thing too. So
And chicks love it.
That's it. Chicks stick to drummer.
They do. Sometimes it depends.
I guess you have a lot of girls coming up, maybe a little drunk, and they say like, "We want to talk with the drummer."
It can depend on where you are.
It
That's all I'll say. Yeah.
I see. But this one I'm kind of jumping forward. But I guess what's your funniest memory while gigging or touring?
It's funny because when I read your email the other night, I kind of was like, I've got to think of a good story about that. And probably the best one I could think of at the time was 2017. I was doing a month contract on a cruise ship between Newcastle in England and Amsterdam in Europe, and the North Sea is pretty much notorious for being quite unforgiving in winter, and our contract was December. So the majority of it was good. There was no, nobody fell over, so to speak. And then the last two nights, it was our second last night, or was it our last night? The captain was like, "It's going to be a bit rough tonight." And when the captain says it's going to be a bit rough, it's going to be fucking terrible. So it's the second we left the port, like you just could not see the horizon. You were just kind of going up and down. They closed all the decks. And all our gear was constantly set up on the stage in the nightclub in the ship. And we were up in the crew lounge at about 7:30, and we were really seasick. And I don't get seasick. I've been swimming in the water all my life, between surfing and scuba diving, whatever. Used to the water. I love the water, but this was something else, man. Like it was just, I was laying like face down on I was laying on my back, face up, watching the ceiling, my arms out, just holding on to the carpet, because I felt so sick, and you had no point of reference for where the horizon was, so your body was just like, why is this happening? And our manager came up, our entertainment manager for that contract. He said, "Guys, you might want to have a look at the stage." So we went down to the stage. It was just like the whole big gear just went into the corner, and the drum riser was gone. The drums were in the corner, the amps, and it was just, none of it was our gear, just breakables. But I just remember going down. I was like, and we still had to play. We had to set it all back up and play, even though the ship was going like this. And I remember our guitarist at the time was like, there's a power stance, right? You can see a power stance. This guy was like this, trying to anchor himself. And he was still falling in. And I was trying to play like while going, I guess. I was like, this is ridiculous, man. And that was a tough gig. And that was our last night on that ship. There was one way to leave it.
Where was that going? You said it was in the North Sea. Was that like going to Denmark or Norway?
It was a Danish company going between Newcastle in England, on the east of England, and the west of Europe. So Denmark, Amsterdam. Sorry.
Oh, okay, I see.
It was a tough one.
Yeah, fortunately, I never had to actually deal with that, because when I was in the UK a couple of years back, we just kind of went through the channel where you go from London into Paris right there. So
I've never done that. I'd love to do it.
It's actually pretty cool, but of course, when you get to the tunnel, you're down under there for like, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 minutes maybe.
Is that it?
I don't know, because it is going extremely fast, because it is going over 100 miles an hour, and it's one of those speed trains too. So, I mean, I honestly couldn't keep track of time. I kind of fell asleep and everything. I woke up, I'm sweating very profusely because, unfortunately, the AC had broken on us. So that was kind of fun.
Oh, no.
So, fortunately, we got there okay. So it was all good and everything. I just remember waking up and being like, what the hell is it so hot back here, man?
I don't remember being wet.
I don't remember being sweaty and everything. I don't remember working out, that sort of thing. I'm not ready for my beach stuff yet, man. That's the thing.
Yeah. It's not summer season yet.
Yeah. Actually, it was when I was over there, but it was
okay.
Largely just bad timing with the AC just falling off and everything, too. So
AC is everything.
Yeah, that's what we need these days. I guess let's jump into your YouTube channel. I guess when did you start it? It seems like you've kind of been a little bit on and off, given that you gig a lot, too.
Yeah, it's not something I kind of keep on top of, to be quite honest. I'm a lot more active on Instagram. It's definitely a lot tougher to film content when you're on the road. The only kind of thing I have is a GoPro. I kind of throw it out on the front of the kit sometimes. I kind of started doing YouTube videos, not even like seriously. I've never taken it seriously. Um, it's not really been my thing. I'm not very good at video editing. Any of the videos that are up there is not edited. Like the most editing I'll do is trim it on the iPhone just so it doesn't show me getting up to turn the camera off or sitting behind the kit. But I started doing some stuff in like 2009, maybe 2008, like the odd video, just because I was like seeing other people. I want to get on that, you know. And when I left Ireland in 2011, I didn't really have any of my own stuff. I had the kit over there, but I didn't have like a place I could constantly go. So anytime any of the stuff that I recorded that's not in that room that you've seen is in either a studio that I rented out or my buddy's bedroom where he had an electric kit. But since coming back, that's when I kind of was throwing more and more stuff on Instagram and then kind of putting the odd one on YouTube. I find that YouTube can be very hit and miss when it comes to launching videos. Like maybe that's just the algorithm. I don't know. But it's the older stuff got really good hits. Like I think the most I got was like 85,000 or something, 80 something thousand. That was on I think Songs for the Dead, Queens of Stone Age track. But that was like 2009. Didn't really know what I was at, but you know, but YouTube is. Mm-hmm. It's a very time-consuming thing to want to do all the time. I respect for anyone who could sit there and plan out a video and make it really cool, because I know even from editing a drum video, even mixing it in the studio, that'll take a full day, at least a full day, and then you listen to it the next day and your ears are fresh and you're like, oh, it's terrible, start again. So
yeah, would you say you kind of suffer from perfectionism too?
Yeah, like my videos are by no means perfect, and like there's a funny saying, like songs never get released, they escape. Like, so you know, you just got to know when to draw the line. I think the best thing I started doing was giving myself a cutoff point. Like, I'm going to mix this for 6 hours. By the end of the 6 hours, doesn't matter if I'm not happy with it, I'll give it a break. If it comes back and it sounds good and I'm all right with it and the parts are good and there's nothing drastically wrong, I'll go for it. Because at the end of the day, the second you draw the line in it, you're not really going to listen to it anymore. It's just out there for public consumption. So
I see.
Yeah.
I think the one I stumbled upon when I found out about you, I think it was the Rush's YYZ.
Oh, really? You seen that one?
Yeah, I did see that one, yeah.
That got no traction whatsoever, and I spent ages practicing that. Ages and ages practicing that.
Yeah, I know. It's really a tough one, too. And
yeah.
I think you were missing like some components, because I know, if you know Neil Peart, he had like the whole set kind of going in and around him, too.
Yeah.
So, but you made do with what you had.
I did. That was the Tama kit. That was the 12 and the 16 rack, but I had a little 10-inch from my old Gretsch kit, so I just cranked that up as kind of like a Rototom Timbali type of sound.
Yeah.
And just tried to get it going with that. But it's a great track. What a track.
I know. Especially just as an instrumental, too, because I think we know him as mostly for like whenever Geddy Lee's also singing, too, but this one was just probably one of their best instrumentals. Yeah. I think I might have commented on it, to be honest. I don't know.
Oh, really?
I might have. I have to check again. I just remember. I was thinking. I think I actually did comment on it, and then.
Thank you for watching.
No worries, and
appreciate the support.
well, the funny thing too is like I've interviewed some guys out of Canada too, and anytime they mention about YYZ, they go YYZ for some reason. It's like it's just part of their tongue. They don't say like Z like the Americans do and stuff like that. So you just know it's like different dialects and stuff like that. So it's funny to at least learn that sort of thing. So I guess they kind of pronounce it differently in Ireland.
YYZ. Z would what we would say, but if I'm saying the song, it would be YYZ.
Okay, I see.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's what you would think of too, and that's also what you've been taught. So
pretty much. I just always I would always say XYZ or XYZ, but yeah, actually I don't really know, because it's not really something you don't pronounce many Z's or Z's on a daily basis. Not really. Not in Ireland anyway.
Zero would probably be the most used one, but I wonder if it'd be like zero or something.
Zero.
Like
Zero. Yeah, I suppose. That's caught me, that one.
All right. Is there something you hope to achieve with any of your social media channels, regardless of which one you use?
If I had the time, I'd like to make it a drum video a week would be great. Um, but as you know, in respects to um, social media, sure, getting a couple of thousand or a couple of 100,000 would be great because that means you're now somewhat eligible for the bigger companies to take you seriously. Depending on what you play, obviously, you could be a killer player with only 7,000 followers, or you could be a less proficient player with 400,000. Usually, the ones that are appealing to the bigger companies, like say, for my own instance, Tama, Zildjian, Remo, be with 400,000. He has more reach and he has more stuff to offer them. He can get more numbers in the door because Brian plays Tama. He's got 400,000. He's sick. I'm gonna go play some Tama because I've seen him make it cool. I want to sound like Brian. I want to play like Brian. But then it's funny how it works on social media because even by default, you would go onto someone's page, and if they have a blue tick, you automatically take them a bit more serious, even by just subconsciously. Same with you go onto someone's page and you see them, oh, they've only got 400 followers, they must suck. That's how a lot of people think about it. Like, let's call a spade a spade. But if you go onto someone's page, 400,000 followers, blue tick, you'd be like, oh, this guy is unbelievable. Could be terrible, could be great, you don't know. But because you have that weight behind you already, people put you on a bit of a pedestal. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. Sorry, I got killing my throat there. I guess, are you sponsored by anybody right now, or are you just kind of rolling?
I'm sponsored by a brand called Porter and Davies. I don't know if you've ever checked them out. They are phenomenal. If there was one bit of kit that I was running out of a burning house with, it would be that. It is a little. It's a monitor you have in your seat. You take a line coming out of your microphone, out of your bass drum, plug it into the module, then you take a line out of your module into the desk or into your interface or whatever, and you have a little speak-on cable, plug it into your seat. You can control how much monitoring you want to have in your seat. So when you hit the bass drum, it reverberates pretty much in your arse. So it really, and you can turn it up really, like I heard it way too high at the gig last night, and I kicked the bass and my head started wobbling. I was like, that's too much. It's a fantastic bit of kit. You can also take a lead back, like you can take it out of the desk and run it in as a separate monitor. So I think you can run your toms through it. I haven't explored that much. Great bit of kit, man. Bit pricey, but when you get the artist discount, whatever, you're on the website. It's cool. Gives you a bit of clout, a bit of weight behind your name for certain things if you want to market yourself. But as opposed to any other companies, no. I've been chasing Tama for a while. I really wanted to get on board with Tama. And when it comes to cymbals, no. But the only cymbals I really love playing is Zildjian. I've been playing Zildjian for the last 15 years, man, and they're just excellent. They're pricey, but they're the best.
I see, yeah. Actually, I was kind of picturing the cartoonish kind of moments if you would have hit a gong instead, and then you just start vibrating, that sort of thing.
Like the Looney Tunes type stuff.
Yeah, it takes you out the side door right there and accidentally knocks you into a garbage can or stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I've triggered some accidental sounds with my electronics pad sometimes, so that can happen.
I know there was there was a drum check song. Well, it was like kind of an instrumental from Morbid Angel, and the drummer, Pete Sandoval, I think the guy was like saying like, okay, Pete, can you just hit your bass drum for me? Hits it twice, and all of a sudden he just jumps into a crazy drum metal solo, and it's just like all crazy and everything. And then at the end, it was like, okay, Pete, can you just hit your bass drum? That sort of thing. That was
just
like,
give me quarter notes, man.
It was just, well, that was like 2 minutes later. That's when the technician and everything was like saying like, okay, Pete, just hit your bass drum, that sort of thing. So, and something like that when you're like sound testing.
Sound checking your kit. Yeah. It's when you work with sound engineers, they are very quick to tell you to shut up, and it makes it a lot easier if you can just go, there's the kick, okay, snare, rack. You just follow them, your life will be a lot easier. When I was starting off, the second you get behind the kit, you're like, oh, I can't wait to play this in a new room or whatever. But you soon learn to kind of respect everyone else. Although guitarists are pretty bad for it. Guitarists noodle the second they can. But yeah, that's a whole other dynamic. But I think you got to know when to shut up, because drums are very intrusive. Like, you've got the whole show to play.
I see. I guess speaking of living or being playing live and then getting into gigs, I guess what sort of advice could you give out there for like getting set up and everything, and then making sure to make everything as easy as possible?
Um, well, getting gigs, networking, like I said before, and have a bit of content out that you can kind of throw yourself, or even have a couple of demos that you've played on, or even a YouTube video of you doing a couple of grooves, so people can know if you can play time or whatever. But if you're going to be going on the road professionally, make sure you got good gear, you look after your gear, you have backups. So last two gigs ago, middle of a song, my snare blew out, and I was having a lazy day, and I left my spare snare in the truck, and the guitarist had to go fuck and put down the thing, run out, get the snare, change it out, all while still playing the song. So it was have backups, and if you want to get like really serious with being a musician, if you want to go on the road properly, don't be an asshole. Check your ego, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with the same guys. And if you get a job as a session guy, at the bigger gigs, I've not been lucky enough to do like some of the stuff where you go all around Europe. But if you're an asshole and a good player, they'll probably get sick of you and go with the guy who's not an asshole but not as good of a player, because who wants to have a bad vibe in a small group of anywhere. So, and 9 times out of 10 you'll have a tour manager being like, all right, who's this guy next? It's cutthroat, man. It's a lot of guys. I spoke to a really interesting sound guy from a venue we played in Bristol in the UK. He was an American guy, and he said some of those tours are so cutthroat. If you make one mistake, you're gone. They'll replace you. So he was doing stadium stuff. So if you're playing that kind of stuff, have your shit together.
You gotta know what you're doing. That's the thing. Make sure you really do your homework.
There's no way to bluff through it, man.
I know that must suck, really, because I've always heard like kind of negative things with like the music industry in terms of like just like getting out there and getting your name and everything. But it seems like this is now a whole new dynamic. So it's almost like there's little room for error. So I mean, like you could be out of a job, and that's your livelihood and everything.
I think it's a lot more tough on crew, because a lot rolls on the crew. The band think they're great, but nothing happens without a good crew. The crew don't get a lot of luck in. We're doing this new show in the theater. We're doing like a classic rock. It's called Rock Rising. You might have seen it on my YouTube channel, my Instagram. It's we posted a clip of Journey, Separate Ways, and there's the 4 of us in the band, with 3 other session guys, or they're in it, but it stemmed from the 4 of us. So it's like a classic rock show taking you to 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s of classic rock for about 2 hours. And the production behind that is so important with the crew. Your own sound guy, your own monitor guy, your own lights guy, guys to help you with the gear, because the second you finish, you have to go out and network, to chat to people and say thank you for coming to the show, come to the next one, try and sell some merch, whatever. And people just think, you'll have a pint before you go on, play, have fun, go home. It's like it's 12 to 14 hour days. It's not, especially when you're self-funded. It's a lot of work. And people, you're just a musician, you're just hanging out. It's like, it really isn't like that. It's a full-time job. Like it's when you want to take it seriously, you have to take it seriously.
Take it seriously to have fun, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. Do you guys have any roadies, or I guess you have a nice crew and everything?
For specific gigs, for the bigger theater gigs, there's 7 or 6 of us in the band. At the moment, we've got a session guy on keys, doing some synth stuff, and then we've got 5 other guys, doing lights, sound, monitor, tech-in, and roadie-in. So, you just can't do it all, because you're building the stage, you're rigging the lights. Like you just haven't got time. You have to focus on doing, like, because if people are coming to pay to see you, you have to put in a good show, and you can't do it all, otherwise you're burnt out. So
yeah, absolutely too. And plus, you don't want to Or as the old saying would go, they get Rotten Tomatoes, just start throwing them at you and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'll eat as much as I can, but
Yeah.
there's comes a point.
Has there ever been any sort of drama at any of your gigs, anything? Like you guys maybe were doing well and then all of a sudden the audience just start being a bunch of assholes and stuff like that?
Luckily enough, no, because our frontman, he just can work a crowd. He's just good. He's one of those guys that he's funny. He knows when to read the crowd. He knows when to make certain jokes. And there's a couple of people, heckling, as you do, it's just drunk people. And if it gets bad, you have security there. They'll reject them, whatever. But 9 times out of 10, even if it starts as a slow gig where people are not listening or not into it at all, by the end of it, most people are up. It's weird. In Ireland, it's strange.
Yeah. I just remember, like, one of the ones that come to mind, it was a Nickelback, and they were playing in Portugal. You probably know about this story.
Yeah, one more bottle and we go home.
There was that, too, and I think people were just throwing rocks at him or something. It was, like, little rocks and everything, and they were just throwing them at him and stuff like that, and it was just bad.
Wow.
And they just got up and just say, like, we got any fans in Portugal? And they're like, no, that sort of thing.
And he goes, all right, see ya.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one.
Well, that was because he got hit. And if you look real closely, you'll see his hair kind of go up a little bit and hit him in the back of the head.
Huh.
And that's why he's like, see ya. And they just walked off and they gave him the fingers and all that stuff, too. So,
that's fair enough.
Needless to say, you're never going back there. So,
yeah. I actually watched an interesting video yesterday about why Nickelback are the most hated band. It started by around the time of remember that song, How You Remind Me?
Yeah.
The big one. Some comedian was giving out about them being like, oh, if I had to listen to Nickelback one more time. And it was around the start, it was like early 2000s. And what that comedy channel kept playing that interview on adverts. And people just took off as a trend. And even people that didn't know Nickelback, I'm just regurgitating the information from the video. Like, it could be wrong, whatever. But I just thought it was really interesting. And it just became more and more of a trend to hate on Nickelback. And they're actually great. They're great musicians, and their new song is fantastic. But it's a shame that one guy, maybe he didn't mean it, but it just took one bad,
one bad day.
One bad day, So
yeah. Actually, I remember Saving Me was played a lot on the radio, and it kind of got a little annoying because I think it was like on one radio station, and I think it would do it once, it play that song.
Yeah.
It would maybe do like a couple of different songs from different groups, and it came back to it for some reason. And I was thinking, like, can we play something else? I mean, I know this song already. I want to maybe get something new. And like, I think I must have played like 3 times, to be honest. And after that, it was just kind of a little annoying, to be honest. So, but I always had respect for him. I know Photograph was also a good song, and Bold with a Name.
I think Photograph has just became so memed now, and I have a lot of time for memes. Don't get me wrong, but that one in particular, look at this graph. That's a hilarious one. Well,
yeah.
Actually,
I thought there was one like Donald Trump made too with look at this photograph and stuff like that. I forget what it was, but
there's so many. Political. There's so many.
I know. During live shows, you said you and your guitar player have like this in sync kind of focus thing, so you know how to keep time and everything too.
Yeah.
I guess. Is there any sort of advice you can give to musicians who want to try to do live, trying to get into those kind of gigs?
Metronome, play to a click. Focus on.
Should be like maybe like sort of nooks, like your guitar player should like turn to you and be like, okay, I know this part right here. This is what I should be playing next. That sort of thing. Yeah,
know your material is always a great one. Know what you're doing, and I can be guilty of that sometimes. If I'm learning a lot of material, I have trouble retaining certain parts. So that's just muscle memory I have to work on to get that. Put in the work that way is also good. The guys that I play with, they're very particular about getting it right. And a lot of people don't like working with some people who are so cutthroat because it's wrong until it's right type of approach. And it can get very meticulous and very stressful, being like, we've ran the song so many times during rehearsal, but then when you listen back to it and go, gee, that sounds great. The band's really grooving, you're really in a pocket there, and you put it up against the record, parts wise, structure wise, it sounds the same. something fulfilling about doing that right. And then when you play it the same every night, everyone knows where they are. And the bridge section. Brian's going to do this, or James is going to do this. So that's that kind of dynamic. Then other bands you have free form to do what you want, as long as you don't stray too far from the actual theme of the song or the actual groove. You have more stylistic freedom. It really depends, but for specific gigs you'll be expected to show up each night doing the same stuff. So have a good time, know your parts, have good gear, and like I said, don't be an asshole.
That too, and I guess also make sure you know your bandmates too, as well as like any sort of signals they get. Maybe with, you said your guitar player does it with his hand, kind of telling you like slow down a little bit here, or sort of thing.
Yeah, it's not so much a slow down thing. It's more of like sit back. You're kind of like a bit anxious. You feel a bit anxious, so you just kind of focus in and just kind of go sit, like the whole Phil Rudd thing. Sit back and just fucking groove it, man. Because then when you're relaxed, everyone else is relaxed because you're setting the beat for everybody.
It starts at the top.
Pretty much, like you can't dance the guitar. I don't care who says it. You just can't dance the guitar unless it's flamenco. Then you can do a bit.
Yeah.
Know your parts. Practice the metronome. Have good gear. Don't be an asshole.
That sort of thing. All right.
It's It's not hard to be a musician. Not really.
It takes a little bit. But
it takes a little bit.
A little experience in practicing, and then we get it down like a science afterwards.
Yeah.
All right. So let's jump into COVID right here. I guess, how bad did it affect you, your family, and community?
Ireland got hit hard. Ireland got hit very, very hard. Like with the entertainment industry was brought to its knees and below. It was very tough. I moved back home with my parents. I was lucky enough to go back with my parents. I was determined to make the most of it because I didn't know how long it was going to last. Turned into 2 years pretty much living at home. You had the odd gig, but there was nothing. So that's when I started working on getting better at the studio mixing, getting better at production, getting better at playing. So I definitely worked on my craft a little bit more. So if there's rudiments I was really struggling with that I didn't know, I tried to do a bit more with that. Worked on my groove. Then personally, I grew up an awful lot during that time. Got really into fitness for a while. Got really into the gym. Got back into surfing at home. I lived in the west coast of Ireland, so I was able to surf all the time, even during the pandemic, the lockdowns. Like there was points when you were only allowed to go 5 kilometers from your house in a radius. Like, so it was luckily I lived in the countryside. It was out of the way, so you could kind of get to the beach, go for a surf, whatever. But musically, there was nothing happening. But everyone was kind of doing stuff online, communicating via that, so you could actually connect with friends and kind of keep in touch that way by doing like collaborations and stuff. I've done a couple with my friends in England and in Ireland. And it was tough, man. It was at one point I lost all interest in music. I was like, there's just no spark because you don't get the feel of playing with other musicians. Went to a couple of dark places, and then you kind of just you just have to roll with it because everyone goes to dark places at some point in their life. It's just what you do while you're there is important to try and drag yourself out. It doesn't last forever. I've seen a really good interview with Tom Hanks. He was at a table of writers, table of actors, and he goes, "You feel happy? This too shall pass." And he goes, "You feel sad? This too shall pass. You feel angry? This too shall pass." And he goes, emotion is not like, it's not permanent. You might be having a great day. Tomorrow you might never be having a better day. The next day you might feel horrendous, but nothing lasts. So it's kind of good to take that into consideration when you go back to the point about mental health. It's not permanent. It's tough at the time, really is. It's tough at the time, and sometimes it can be really hard to go to bed. But even the little things like going for a walk that day, you can be like, okay, well, I felt shit this morning, but I went for a walk. I feel better now. Maybe we'll see if tomorrow's better. I think that's good to kind of take into consideration as well. But lockdown was testing on all those grounds I just mentioned. Like it was tricky.
Yeah, actually, a friend of mine, I had interviewed too. He actually said the same thing too. This too shall pass, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
I only seen it recently, and I was like, fucking Tom Hanks spitting that fucking really great stuff.
You can always count on Tom Hanks to kind of say
absolutely
stuff. Yeah, that's for sure. So it is
Sorry,
good.
one sec. My ear fell out there.
Oh no. I was gonna say,
Yes.
I was waiting for you to get back in, and I unfortunately lost my train of thought.
Very good.
I would say, did it allow you to like kind of expand a little bit, like maybe get into doing more social media and stuff like that? I know it probably allowed you to maybe do more of your remote work as a session musician. Did you do any other works on social media and stuff like that?
Actually, currently I'm running the most of the socials for the new show. That theater show is on about the evolution of classic rock. I'm kind of trying to manage all that, and it's a lot to handle. That's why a lot of people end up having social media people to help them with that, because it's almost like a full-time job trying to post stuff all the time and keep everything the same, and whilst trying to learn tracks or then go and play a gig or whatever. You're just a bit like, fucking hell, give me a break. So probably not. I wouldn't want to go down that route, because I like getting off social media, kind of being present, because it's all fake. It doesn't matter,
Yeah, everything's fake, as the saying would probably go, and that sort of thing. So
Yeah,
yeah, I can see what you mean too. It's a different beast in and of itself too, even though it's helped connect us in
Yeah.
certain ways.
it's good if you use it as a tool.
Yeah, tool in the right way as a
Yeah.
sort of way of like connecting and stuff like that. So, but obviously people turn that on its head and just start doing like crazy stuff, some sort of conspiracies and stuff like that. So I can see it gets a lot. So
Mm.
it's good. To
It's
see.
it's like you say, it's two sides of a different beast. It's you use it as a tool, and unfortunately, as musicians and content creators, you need it, and it's knowing when to go. That's enough.
Yeah.
Finding that balance is important, and not taking it too seriously.
No. All right.
You know what I mean? Like, because if you take yourself serious on social media, you're just like no one cares. It's funnier if someone makes a joke all the time, because it's just real.
Yeah, we want to laugh. We don't want to be always angry all the time. We don't want the negativity, that sort of thing. So
Nah, I'm not into that, man.
negativity, don't need it, that sort of thing. That's what we
Don't
need to
need
make a
it.
shirt of.
Plenty of it there, man.
Yep. All right. So let's now jump into some fun questions right here. You're
Cool.
that part of the podcast. So, since you're pretty much single right now, I guess, how would you describe the perfect date night?
Um,
You can get as fancy as you want to. I mean, you can go crazy as you want.
I don't really like going on a cold date. I've been on a couple of dates over the last couple of months that have just been super awkward. Through no fault of anyone's person. You click with some people, you don't. Just going on a date with someone who you vibe with. Anything else, I don't care. I'll just keep that simple. If you vibe with someone, excellent. If you don't, then just cut it, man.
All right. I can see what you mean too. Yeah, it's one of those things you don't want to just go on the app and you just like find somebody who like has similar interests to what you have, and you just meet, and then it's
Yeah.
like awkward.
Yeah,
Then it's like kind of wasted moment there or opportunity. But
pretty much.
yeah. All right. So, what kind of favorite beverage do you like? Do you drink a lot? Good beer, wine?
So you're talking alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
Let's do alcoholic and then non-alcoholic.
All right. From Ireland, a good pint of Guinness, man. Can't go wrong with it. It's a trouble stopping after one, because then you can put them away far too easy.
They do want like little
Um,
smiley faces on them.
Nah, man, we don't go in for that. We just drink them. Yeah. That's more of a broad thing. We just get into it.
Just don't waste any time. I see.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm not into the whiskey. I like the concept of having a whiskey. I think it's really cool. For me, I drink it and I'm like, oh, it's just not for me. Rum and Coke is nice. Tequila, a good tequila for me is great. So a beer and a tequila, I'm pretty happy.
I see. Yeah. And I guess non-alcoholic. You do any Coke products, Pepsi, anything like that?
I'm trying to stop drinking Coke Zero. I like it. It's great. Coffee, I'll drink like a flat white, or like a flat white with an extra shot or something like that to give me a good go in the morning. Tea, like Irish people like tea. Apparently they drink more tea than the Brits or the English. Water, man. Water. Drink a lot of water.
A lot of
It's
water.
good. I have to drink a lot of water, especially being on stage or sweating all the time and stuff like that. Otherwise, I don't know. A a good apple juice now and then, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The reason why I said about the little smiley face for the Guinness, there was a funny story with Dave Mustaine from Megadeth when he was visiting Ireland, and I think it was Antrim. I think that's one of the cities in Ireland. And
Where?
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, so correct me if I'm wrong. I think you pronounce it Antrim or something like
Antrim. So yeah, Antrim is a county. So in that you'll have different towns. So he's probably in a town in Antrim, or he was probably in County Antrim.
that. I see. Okay, so he was drinking a lot of the Guinness, and I guess they gave him like little smiley faces and stuff, and I guess he like chugged maybe 5 of them down because back then that was what you did in those kind of bands.
Still do it now.
Yeah, but unfortunately he went on stage, and because he had too much of that, people were, and that was back when the IRA was like real big and stuff like that for the cause, as they would probably call it. And unfortunately, when someone threw a coin at him because they were like real thick and stuff like that, he unfortunately came back out to the stage and was like, "Give Ireland back to the Irish. This is for the cause, anarchy and Antrim," that sort of thing. And unfortunately, that's when like all the guard dogs and everything just started coming through and everything. So they had to get in their bus, which was a bulletproof. Actually, they had to get out of Antrim, to be honest. So that was.
Depends where you say that. That he was playing a gig in Northern Ireland, so that could be problematic. And the time he said it and the location he said it would have been. If he wasn't an educated man about that, he could have got himself into a bit of trouble, or it could have went well for him.
Well, it was a little bit. He didn't get arrested, but they had to.
He wouldn't get arrested, but I mean, like people wouldn't be received too well. That's all. Yeah. We'll leave that one there.
yeah, but they did have to get him out there on a bulletproof bus and everything too. So he probably
that was the norm back then.
Yeah,
you still see stuff like that around around some of the cities in Northern Ireland. They'll have like armored jeeps with bulletproof glass going around. So
I see. Is it mostly somewhat calmed down in Northern Ireland, or is it still kind of a little tense here and there?
It's a lot calmed down. It's nothing like it was back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Like when my parents were growing up, and stuff before that, my grandparents. It's a very complex and long situation.
Yeah, I can see why. But it's at least good to see it's calming down. So.
Yeah, it's everything's progressing. The younger generation just kind of want to get on with things, but the history will always be there.
Yeah, unfortunately too. All right, but here's the next one here. What's your favorite movie?
Oh God, that's an impossible question. I couldn't tell you. Off the top of my head, the one I last talked about was Fury. I'm big into Second World War history. Fury is a phenomenal film, but of the last year, Top Gun 2 is phenomenal, man.
I see.
Unbelievably. There was just no bullshit in it. It was just a great film.
I see, yeah. And TV series? Have you watched any TV recently?
Best TV series I could probably pick is The Punisher.
The Punisher?
Yeah, great. John Bernthal in that just plays him so well.
I actually have the T-shirt for The Punisher that I sometimes wear during my drum covers. Unfortunately, I don't think I watched it too much. I think I might have seen like bits and pieces of it. I think maybe I was too young at the time, to be honest. But
Season 1, Season 2, and they might be bringing it back for a third season, so check that out. It's phenomenal.
Is it relatively new, or is it like
2016, 2017, and then the last 2 years with Season 2, so
I see.
Enjoy.
All right. I think you already touched on a tourist spot in Ireland, but I guess talk a little bit about Ireland. Like, what's the best spot for tourists to go, and what's it like now this time of year?
Dublin is always going to be Dublin. Everyone knows Dublin. Everyone knows different bits and pieces in Dublin. Galway is phenomenal. It's like a smaller city, more of a big town. It's great. Killarney's also Killarney's in County Kerry. That's where we were on Thursday night playing a gig. Great, nice, vibrant town. Atmosphere is always good. Music out all the time. And then there's a lot of scenic places. Ireland's quite rural, even at the best of times. So there's a lot of like coastline to see and landmarks to go see. So it's one of those come and see for yourself type places. It's pretty nice.
I was gonna say, which cities and towns are known for like a lot of music and stuff like that?
All of them, really. You can get a lot of like Irish traditional music, but it really depends where you are. Yeah, like Irish music is. You go into any any traditional Irish pub on like a Thursday, but you'd even get it on a Monday or Tuesday, depending. So it really depends.
Every day's a drinking day and having good party and stuff like that.
Depends how thirsty you are.
Yeah, I know in the U.S. It's like Thursday, Thursdays, and then Fridays, obviously being the last day of work, you then tend to go to the bar and everything, just having a good time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do a little bit on Saturday because actually tonight's karaoke night at the place I work at, so that'll be jumping and everything.
Nice.
So
fun.
I actually forgot to ask this. Have you ever played in cover bands before?
Yeah, plenty. The band I play in at the minute is primarily a covers band. They've done a lot of original stuff, but the cover circuit in Ireland is where the money's at.
I see. Okay. All right. So we are almost out of time, but I got one more question for you. But I guess before we jump into that, do you have any shout outs or anything you want to say before we jump into it?
Shout outs wise, no, I'm all good. If my parents end up watching this, hello to them and thank you for putting up with me over the last 29 years. Thanks for helping me out, and thank you for having me on as well on the podcast.
No worries. All right, so we got the last question right here, and this one I tend to like to ask, even though it may seem a little cliche. I think it's something people really need at this moment, regardless of beliefs and stuff like that. What sort of message of hope could you give to other musicians out there because of what COVID's done?
Get back on the horse. Keep going. That's all you can do. Just keep going. If you want it bad enough and you go after it, you'll get it. It might take a bit of time. You'll get a lot of setback. Just keep going. There's a long time. I used to go when I was growing up, and I used to see all the people I knew of my similar age playing in bands, and I didn't have a band, and I was like I'm just as good as these guys. I'm just as competent. Why can't I play it? My mom was just driving me up and down to drum lessons like half an hour each way. She goes, "Your time will come." I was just like, "Oh yeah, whatever, yeah, of course it will." Blah blah blah. And she was like, "No, just wait. It's not for you." I was like, "Yeah, right, yeah, it's not what I want to hear, Mom." At that time, and she was right. She was right, because now I get to do it as my full-time job. While a lot of the guys at the time that I was envious of, through no disrespect or no credit, no discredit or whatever, they aren't fortunate enough to do what I'm able to do at the minute. I'm very, very lucky, but I went after it awful and very, very hard. I wasn't just going to stop. Like, I know what I want, and I know what I want to do. Not saying no one else does, but if you want it, you can get it. Like, you just got to make a lot of sacrifices and really just be like, "Yeah, well, okay."
I think a couple of sayings too. It was like, "Those who wait will be champions," that sort of thing, and then it's like, "Patience is a virtue too." So
yeah,
it's something along those lines.
Pretty much. That's where all the networking comes in, man.
Smoking like a true prodigy, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right, James, really thank you so much for that message right there. I guess. Do you have any last words or anything before we close out of here?
No, thank you very much, man. Continued success in your podcast, and send me a message whenever it's up.
No worries. It might be a little bit, but I'll
no
let
worries,
you know.
man. No, you're all good.
All right. So, everyone, my guest today was James Kelly. He's hailing from Ireland. He's a professional session musician and a badass. That's it.
Yeah, all right.
We'll put that on the resume.
Yeah, I would.
All right.
Thanks, man. Thanks, appreciate it. Have a nice evening. Enjoy your karaoke.
No worries. You take care.
See you, man.